All this meeting to order. Beginning with the roll call of commission members, Commissioner Fair. Here. Commissioner Rubin. Here. I'm here, and we have a form. And we'll begin with I'd like to request a motion to approve the minutes from our July 10th, 2025 meeting. So moved by Commissioner Fair, seconded by Commissioner Rubin, and I'm a yes, and, motion carries unanimously. The minutes will be posted on the commission's website. There are 8 projects on the agenda for today's meeting. Staff to the commission will present the project on the agenda and state the recommendation. Following the staff presentation, the committee will have an opportunity to ask questions of the staff. The applicant may then make a statement. Following the applicant's statements, members of the public may make their statements. I'd like to ask anyone other than the applicant wishing to make a statement on the item on today's agenda to complete a public comment card and give the comment to a member of the staff. Comment cards are available at the door. As a courtesy to other individuals wishing to offer comments, we ask that members of the general public limit your statements to 3 minutes or less. When the time comes for a public comment on the item on the agenda, I will call you in from cards and ask you to make a statement. Please state your name, the interest, organization, and company you represent, if any. Our first project for today is 30 North LaSalle in the 34th Ward. It's the proposed changes to the scope of work as reviewed by the Permit Review Committee at the March 2025 meeting to include modifications to the previously approved storefront replacement, rooftop addition, and level 43 and 44 curtain wall replacement. And I'd like to call on Joyce Reynolds for the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Permit Review Committee has previously reviewed this adaptive reuse and renovation project at the March 2025 meeting. As the team continued to develop the drawings for proposed rehab, design issues were discovered that impacted the previously approved design. As originally proposed, the existing non-historic storefronts shown in the red lines were to be removed and replaced with new storefronts that were installed at the back of the exterior columns and more closely reference the original recess as much as possible, original stone back columns, shown in the green. The setback would have exposed 24 inches on the side of each column. The applicant acknowledged that this approach shown on the left as option 3 did not take into account the existing structure that was installed in the 1989 renovation when the second floor was extended to the perimeter. The structural steel installed in these locations prevents the installation of a storefront at the back of the columns. According to the applicant, installing the storefronts as proposed and approved by the PRC would involve major structural implications. For instance, the existing level 2 slab and steel framing would need to be stored. The existing steel perimeter beams would need to be removed and new steel beams and columns installed set back closer toward the interior of the building. Some reinforcement of the existing steel beams may also be required. The edge of the slab would then need to be cut back to support the new wall location. Due to these issues, the applicant proposed option 1 to install the new storefronts in the same location as the current storefront, which would maintain the 9-inch stone return that exists today. On July 18th, staff met with the applicant on site to verify the issue and expressed that the originally proposed setback was an important detail of the overall project as it references the original design. The architect suggested that with some structural modifications that they may be able to increase the setback. On July 23rd, the architect submitted option 2 to install the new storefront 17 inches back from the exterior face of the columns. Historic preservation staff recommends approval of option 2 as it provides substantial exposure of the stone flat columns, more closely referencing the original recess of the ground floor storefront system. The original storefront system was set back from the columns by an open air arcade. When looking directly in front of the building, it would appear to have a repeating rhythm of 3 modulums for structure on the bay. The elevation proposed and approved at the March PRC meeting more closely resembles the spacing. As the design evolved, the applicant felt that it would be more in keeping with the original architecture to have the storefront module spacing aligned with the joint pattern of the stone cladding now that it engages the stone. The historic preservation staff agrees with this assessment and recommend approval of the revised storefront modules to be aligned with the stone joint. The applicant proposes to use spandrel glass as a curtain wall system on the south elevation to obscure views of the alley. As an alternative solution, the applicant also proposed providing vision glass in this area and also installing a shadow box cavity, which would be illuminated. Staff does not recommend approval of either of these options. This glazing should appear and unobstructed and needs to retain transparency. Interior window treatments such as curtains or blinds can be considered instead. According to the architect, through the progression of the design, it has become necessary to increase the heights of the proposed rooftop enclosure elements to accommodate space and functional requirements. The extent of the elevator penthouse, which includes the required elevator overrun and machine room, has increased by approximately 14 feet to allow the extended elevators to function properly. The height of the new glass volume has increased by approximately 7 feet to ensure adequate clear ceiling heights are provided within the space. The proposed screen wall has increased by approximately 4 feet to ensure there are no sight lines to the existing cooling tower at the southeast corner of the roof from the new exterior terrace. And the height of the guardrail and screen has increased to ensure pedestrian comfort at the new exterior terrace. The applicant provided visibility studies taken from a pedestrian perspective that showed that the appearance of the proposed changes is similar to what was previously approved. Staff agrees with this assessment and recommend approval for these changes. According to the applicant, through the progression of the design, the facade intervention at levels 43 and 44 has advanced to work better with the existing enclosure element. The existing vertical mullions will remain as originally intended. However, the new horizontal mullion needs to be located above level 40 floor slab at the double height area on the northwest corner of the building at the north and east facades. This horizontal mullion will align with the new mullion at the top of the spandrel glazing being introduced and will also align with the existing joint in the existing two-story metal panel system. This new mullion is required to work with the existing stack movement joint. The new and existing horizontal mullions would then be improved with a thermally improved cap, which matches the detail of the typical windows throughout the remainder of the tower. The staff recommends approval of these curtain wall mullion modifications as shown on the drawings. So just to recap, staff recommends approval for the proposed modifications with the conditions mentioned during the presentation and also listed on the slide. And this concludes my presentation. The owner, the architect, and the attorney are also here, so please let us know if you have any questions.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Joyce. Any questions for Joyce before we hear from the applicant? Commissioners? Seeing none, let's hear from the project representative, Mark.
Yeah. I just wanted to say,
Introduce yourself.
I'm Mark Dudasek with Galvin Company, owner representative for 30 North. I just want to say I appreciate Mr. Ramos working with us over the last several weeks on these additions. I appreciate the consideration of design as it evolves and the conditions that we've discovered and worked through diligently, and appreciate your recommendation on moving these items forward.
Commissioners, any questions?
Just like I mean, it sounds like there's consensus on most of the items, but just curious about the spandrel glass versus, you know, the shades that are being recommended. Well, or
Yeah, the original intention or what we'd like is, given Calhoun is an alley-like street, so from a visual perspective is less appealing, but understanding the significance of having the vision glass into the lobby, we are okay with that path forward.
If I could just interject, Mariah DeGrino with DLA Piper, the attorney for the developer. I just want to echo Mark's statements about working with staff. I think this presentation maybe illustrates better than maybe some we've seen today, just how minute everything can be, but how important everything is, right? It's a game of inches. And we just really appreciate staff's very thoughtful approach and collaboration with us to deal with these buildings. They're hard to renovate, hard to rehabilitate. You've got to deal with existing conditions, some of which you discover while you're in the midst of everything. So again, just really appreciate the collaboration.
So thank you for saying that. And any other questions, comments? Seeing none, I think we can move to thank you, and I think we can move to public comment. We have one person signed to speak, Mr. Ward Miller.
Good afternoon, commissioners. For the record, Ward Miller, Richard H. Treehouse, Executive Director of Preservation Chicago. We're very much in support of this project. This is part of the LaSalle Street Reimagined vision, if you will, to rethink these buildings that are mostly vacant since the pandemic. We realize that these buildings have to be working buildings. They have to be flexible. I think the review of the buildings and the suggestions made make this building more palatable and livable for this revisioning of the structure. Of course, this was the site of the Chicago Stock Exchange building. It's too bad that we couldn't have landmarked that years ago. It's a complicated history here, but we realized that was 50 years ago. This is going to be a great asset to the LaSalle Street Canyon, and we are in full support of these changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I don't see anyone else signed to speak on this item, so I'd like to call for a final discussion from commissioners. Any other comments? Seeing none, there's no further discussion. I'd like to request a motion to adopt staff recommendations. So moved by Commissioner Fair, seconded by Commissioner Rubin, and I'm a yes, and motion carries unanimously. So congratulations. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
On this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our second project is 55 East Washington in the 34th Ward, Alderman Conway, in the Pittsfield Building. Proposed exterior stair enclosure on the south elevation that connects the 38th and 39th floors. And again, it's Joyce Farms.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Pittsfield building was designed by Graham Anderson, Probston White. It was completed in 1927 and exhibits finely detailed deco and Gothic revival ornamentation. Current owner acquired the building in 2023, proposes the renovation of a mixed-use commercial and residential building with ground floor retail. The proposal for review today is to construct a new exterior penthouse stair on the south elevation that connects the 38th, 39th floors. The 38th floor is set back with a terrace behind a crenellated parapet. According to the architect, the present system of exits and stairs serving the building are illegal non-conforming for the existing office use, but not for the proposed change to residential. At least 2 fully enclosed continuous stairs from the top to bottom are required by code. The exterior fire escape and catwalk system has been approved to be removed, which further mandates compliance with contemporary code standards. 2 stairs rise up to the tower to the 38th floor. However, the building only has 1 stair serving the 39th floor, which is part equipment and part office. To evaluate the visibility of the stair enclosure, the applicant prepared digital renderings from vantage points south of the building on Michigan and Wabash Avenues between Madison and Monroe Streets. The renderings show the existing views with the proposed stair enclosure. Commission policy has generally been to approve non-habitable visible rooftop additions when they provide access only, such as for staircases and elevator enclosures. And based on the submitted drawings, renderings, and photos, staff recommend that the visibility of the proposed exterior stair enclosure will not have an adverse impact on the historic characteristics of the building, and recommend approval for the new stair enclosure on the south elevation as shown on the drawings dated 6/17/25. The raised green cladding and roofing materials should have a non-reflective finish in a color that matches the historic terracotta. Examples to be reviewed for approval by historic preservation staff prior to order and installation. As part of the building permit application, the applicant shall provide dimension plan section and detailed drawings of the stair enclosure. That includes my presentation. The owner, the architect, and the attorney are all here, so please let us know if you have any questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Joyce. Any questions for Joyce before we go to the applicant? Commissioners? Seeing none, let's hear from the applicant. I think the project architect, Ken DeMuth, decided to speak. Hello, sir.
Good afternoon. Really excited about this project. We've been actually working on this project off and on since 2014. Back when we were looking at it as condo conversion, a slightly different market, but today it's a exciting residential conversion. We envision 400 dwelling units in this building when it's completed, as well as public amenity space. There's gorgeous atrium. If you haven't been there, it's a public space, something to check out, and it's also part of the landmark and will be retained in its beautiful glory. So really excited to be working on this project.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions?
Just, I think staff already mentioned it, in terms of wanting to get the, rain-screen material to be a close match to the building. I saw, just kind of noted in the document that we had some ideas of what that project could be, but, just knowing that that one's gonna be really important. Don't know if you have more details to share at this point about what you're thinking.
There is a particular product that we are envisioning. We used it recently on a project that we completed in Humboldt Park. It was a 9-story building, actually right across from the park. In that case, we were doing a mural to celebrate the Hispanic culture there, Puerto Rican culture, I'm sorry. And in that case, we were able to precisely match the colors because it's digitally imprinted at the factory. And it's similar to a Formica product. So it's a thick, durable resinous product. It's made for the outdoors. It's a rain screen product. And we can match the color. We're even thinking about we could incise the terracotta joints, but that might be going too far. But we will certainly get a sample up there and do a color match. So we can all go out in the park and look at it and decide whether we've got the tone and the reflectivity the way it needs to be.
Yes, I think that was the big one I wanted to hit on, was just with it being something that almost everyone will look up and see what that reflectance is.
And you know, the other thing to keep in mind, of course, in this drawing, it looks pretty big, but you know, it's 450 feet in the air. It's a block, half a block away from the park. You really have to know it's there to find it, to see it. And we've done buildings like this before, and we know that the distance and kind of the haze in the air tends to mute these things a bit. And we're pretty confident, you know, you and I all know it's there, but most other folks.
Thank you.
I'll ask, is work on the atrium coming down the pike next?
It's all happening.
Okay, great. It's one of my favorite spaces in the city. I love it. Please treat it very well.
You know I will.
Yeah, it's definitely, we all know this building, we've seen it, it's a diamond in the rough, and honestly, just can't wait for it to really shine again.
So a story for you. I bought my wife's engagement ring. Very cool.
I'm sure there's a lot of stories.
You got it, you're right.
Our jurisdiction doesn't go as far as the Pittsfield Cafe, but I'm glad it's there. It's an incredible space. I would love to continue to be able to enjoy that space.
Yeah.
But you know,
I've heard that from many.
I'm sure you've heard many folks.
I should identify, I am Tom Larabos, I'm the owner of the Pittsfield building. And so, we've been able to showcase this building to the world, and it's quite an adventure. So really excited about the project.
Thank you for the work you've done with that too. That you have a following on social media.
Yeah, we've broken 100 million views in 60 days. And it's a global audience now. We're about 37 times the population of Chicago that has seen this building around the world.
It's an educational opportunity to be able to talk about what it means to be able to invest in something like this.
Exactly. So it's really exciting to do that.
Good.
So,
Thank you for coming out today. And with that, let's move to public comment. I think we have one person signed to speak. Ward Miller.
Yes, bringing up the rear here, Ward Miller, Richard H. Treehouse, Executive Director of Preservation Chicago. This has been a longtime landmark building in Chicago. It used to be the most well-kept structure from its original construction back in the 1920s. And unfortunately, over the last 20 or so years, it's fallen into extreme disrepair. And we're really happy to see Tom and Ken and Rolando working on this together to really bring this building back. It was once the premier building for doctors and dentists, and it's really a remarkable structure that really deserves this kind of attention, and we're really pleased to be supportive of it. I also want to mention that you know, this is wonderful to see landmark buildings that are a little flexible. You know, we can add staircases and we can adjust things a little bit, and I think that really speaks highly of this department, the city, and the landmark designation. Most people think that these buildings are sort of frozen in time, and these are our living landmarks. They have to be working buildings, and we're very proud to support Tom and his team here with the Pittsfield building, and hope that this renovation wraps up sooner rather than later. It's been a long time coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Very well said. Think that no one else has time to speak, so we will close public comment, and if there's no further discussion, or is there any discussion, final discussion, commissioners? Seeing none, like to request a motion to adopt staff recommendation.
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Rubin. Second by Commissioner Fair, and I'm a yes, motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's very exciting. Project number 3, 900 to 910 West Fulton Market, 27th Ward, Fulton Randolph Market District. Proposed modification is to previously approved rehabilitation of the 4-story building at 900 West Fulton Market, construction of a new 4-story building at 906 West Fulton Market, and partial demolition of the 2-story building at 910 West Fulton Market, with rehabilitation of the front facade and construction of the rooftop addition. And Emily Barton.
All right, so you may recognize these, this project, it's come to PRC a few times. So the subject properties are a set of 3 buildings located side by side at 900, 906, and 910 West Fulton. These buildings were the subject of a very similar proposal that was approved by PRC in May of 2020, with an additional revision approval in June of 2024. The full commission passed a resolution recommending to the city council approval of the demolition of the middle non-contributing building, 906, in September of last year, and city council approved the demolition in December. So the scope of work for 910 Fulton originally also required CCL and city council review, but prior to the September 24th CCL resubmission, the amount of demolition was reduced enough that additional review and approval was not required. So this proposal is to substantially modify the massing of the project, which is considered to be a significant change from the previous approval. Much of the project will remain the same, with the proposal being to alter, add to, demolish, and construct 3 buildings, effectively combining them into one development, although their appearance will remain as separate structures. The eastmost contributing building at 900 West Fulton Market is 4 stories with a high degree of integrity and is proposed to be rehabilitated. The adjacent building to the west, the one that we discussed, is proposed to be demolished in its entirety and replaced with a new 4-story building. And then the facade of the furthest west building at 910 will be retained and restored, with portions of the building demolished and a new 3-story structure constructed behind the historic facade. The section of the visible east addition that is proposed to be demolished on this building entirely, it only makes up 16% of the total area of the elevation, so no further review or city council approvals need to be done there. So starting with 910, the 1-story addition maintains the setbacks that were previously approved. However, the overall height has been slightly lowered. The storefront design has also been slightly modified, with the westernmost masonry opening now extending down to grade and a new recessed entry. After power washing the facade, the applicant discovered that the masonry had been painted, with the underlying masonry consisting of various colors from previous repairs. While originally proposed to be maintained before uncovering this, the new proposal is to repaint the masonry upon completion of tuck pointing repairs. Painting masonry is generally not permitted on landmark buildings, as it can create condition issues, trapping moisture against the historic brick. So staff recommends that painting the facade would be an adverse effect to the historic material and the building and should be eliminated from the repair scope after cleaning has been completed. So the middle new construction building, you'll note, is a full story shorter. The 4th level was being limited to now only a setback egress corridor, as you can see kind of in that dark metal panel. And the 5th level was totally eliminated. So you can see these modifications substantially reduce visibility from what was previously approved by the committee. The commercial type ganged windows on the 3rd floor will now be individual single hung windows. And each storefront bay at the ground floor is now proposed to have its own canopy, as opposed to one across the whole thing, with the masonry piers in between unobstructed. Finally, the easternmost building, 900 West Fulton Market, largely matches the previous proposal. The canopy's been slightly modified, and as I mentioned, all of the buildings will now have their own separate segmented canopies, whereas before it was all one. And then the storefront design has been modified to eliminate the masonry pier. The other side of this building, which is along Peoria, currently has non-historic masonry infill at the first floor. This was previously proposed to be removed, which would reintroduce the original masonry openings as indicated by the existing sills. However, the prospective tenant for this space has now requested these openings to remain unchanged as there are security concerns. The new loading entry and storefront on the north side are proposed to remain. So all three buildings will have retail storefronts along Fulton Market. Per the district design guidelines, storefronts were proportioned relative to the masonry opening and were designed with large glass display windows to provide light and allow for the display of wares. Glazing panels should be as large as possible and not less than 3 feet wide. The proposed storefronts differ in design and, although not dimensioned, show varying widths between the mullions. So staff recommend that any storefronts for any of these buildings be modified by reducing vertical mullions so that glazing panels are no less than. So to kind of recap, some of these conditions transfer over from the previous time. For 900 and 910 West Fullerton, any exterior masonry units should be salvaged for later reinstallation where possible, and any new masonry will match the historic in color, texture, size, shape, and finish. At the new masonry and where tuck pointing of existing masonry occurs, mortar joints should match the existing, and painting the facade of 910 should be eliminated from the repair scope. For 900 and 910, the two that are remaining, an analysis by a licensed structural engineer addressing how the buildings will be protected during the adjacent demolition of the middle building and new construction shall be submitted to staff along with the permit plans. The recommended measures, sequencing, and protection shall be incorporated in the structural and architectural drawings. Specifications for all new materials, finishes, and fixtures should be provided with the permit application. And details for the construction and attachments of the new canopies for all three buildings shall be provided with the permit drawings. Staff further recommends that the committee find the amount of demolition at 910 West Fulton Market was the 19%. Does not trigger the requirements of the landmarks ordinance governing the demolition of 40% or more of landmark buildings. So those are our conditions. I believe we have the architect and ownership here, and I think they would like to discuss a couple of these. So I'm here if you have questions and so on.
Very well done. Thorough presentation and review. Commissioner, any questions for Emily before we go to hear from the applicant? Seeing none, let's hear from the project representative. I believe it's Madeline Doring Hill. And I'm sorry if I'm.
Madeline is not here, but I'm representing ownership as the architect for the project. I'm George Swartz, Vice President with NOR Architects, doing the design work here, and with me is Carlos Valdez, our project architect, project manager for the facility. A lot going on for a small building, I understand that, and I'm really happy for staff kind of continuing to collaborate with us as we're getting into our detailed design. And as part of that, you can see that the scope has changed some. And just high level, some of what came out during our detailed design work and further due diligence. One, we did have a commercial level office on the 3rd floor here, but given the softness of that market these days, it was decided to back away from that. So that sort of lowered the height of that center 906 building, which honestly architecturally massing wise is probably an improvement. So it's a little bit of trying to find the least and best use here as to the highest and best use. And then that coupled with the fact that there's some pretty mushy soils underneath portions of the building here, as I know we'll find veins of that throughout this part of town. In order to do a larger building than this, we were having to go and do deep foundations, caissons, which became fairly cost prohibitive for us. So overall, we're very happy. I think where we are with the building. The two items that I know staff and I had our teams have continued to go back and forth on had to do with the 910 building and that existing masonry. And then on the storefronts. With the 910 building, the discovery was as we went in and started to do some of that ground floor demolition work and repair work, we discovered that it wasn't a red brick there. It was more kind of a beigey colored brick, and there were multiple iterations of repairs with a lot of different type of brick on it. So we were proposing, to not have that modeling on the brick, and with some of the brick really not having a real historical sensitivity, that painting it might be a better way to, make it a bit more contextual with the surrounding areas, understanding the issues with painting. So we would certainly be open to meeting with staff and maybe doing a whole wash of the building, reassessing collaboratively on what we could be doing with the brick, and maybe if there's some type of stain or sealer that we could use, we would certainly be open to utilize that. With regards to the storefronts, we look at really three different things. I don't know if we can go, yeah, that's fine then, either one of them. Maybe if we can get the one prior to that, is it possible, one more? No, okay, back to, right there. We look at three things. Fire life safety issues, of course, you have to make sure that the exiting accommodates your occupant load. And then we'd be looking at the statics of the building relative to things that are within the ordinance. And then the third being wanting to have some flexibility for potential tenants. We do have LOIs, but not 100% signed up yet. What we're finding is that while for most of the openings, and I'm sorry, we can go to the next one. There we go. Okay. Most of the openings, we can't accommodate that minimum 3-foot width for the storefronts. Where we're coming in and putting double doors, which getting back to somewhat being mandated by fire life safety issues, as well as tenants requesting the double doors, the remaining side lights are less than 3 feet. So we are proposing in those cases, if we can have those side lights less than that 3-foot mark where we have double doors. Otherwise, in this case, for example, we would have to do a single door in one bay and a single door in the other bay to be able to get the occupancy and exiting that we would need. And we believe aesthetically better to leave it as it is. But again, open for discussion and for your comment on the operation. Those were
I
really.
just want to clarify, I don't think that from our staff perspective, we anticipated that condition to be an
Okay.
issue.
Oh,
We were
okay.
just looking at where you don't have the entrances to.
Oh,
to deal
no
with
problem,
that,
of
right?
course, yeah, not an issue then, yep. Okay, great,
Great, thank you for that clarification. So only at that entrance door, the double doors.
yeah, right now, and just, fully transparent, it's possible that might switch from left bay to the center bay, the double doors, depending on how tenancy for the space
That's
generally
fine.
lays out, okay.
But 3-foot width for the other areas is.
Not about 6 inches, right?
Commissioners, any other questions, follow-ups?
I mean, I think that the paint conversation on masonry is a paramount one. The land on what will work best. I mean, you can appreciate it. I mean, how big was the power wash? Did you all power wash that entire?
No,
facade
we
or
did,
just the sand?
did it, I mean, partly because we want to have this conversation.
Yeah.
To get to the best strategy for it. I mean, so Carlos, what was it, maybe 3 feet, 4 feet section on the second floor, span, something like that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think continuing that with staff, but definitely avoiding, paint approaches is really critical. So I think that was the biggest thing that jumped out to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm guessing at this point, until you excavate the entire thing, there's no way of knowing exactly how much bad replacement brick there is on the entire thing.
There probably is, and we've done some washing, we've done some poking and prodding, and want to do some top pointing and whatnot.
Sure.
But in terms of what sort of coloration we have behind that existing paint, we're not sure.
You mentioned that it's more of a tan color that you were starting to pick up there, and it could just be the screens, but.
Yeah, it's.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead,
Screen
Carlos, because you
point out.
sorry.
So what happened,
They did a first power wash and it's more or less like this area that you see here, where they continue to do that process. It actually revealed the true color of the brick, which is this, you can clearly see it there. And at that point,
And unfortunately, the guys came in and started to do some painting, that sort of stuff. No, wait, we gotta, can't just go willy-nilly here, so, they had the scaffolding up and I think just, got a little excited about it, so we said, no, let's back off, let's figure out, what we want to do here in conjunction, give the sensitivity to the brick issues.
No, I was gonna just add that I have seen the staining super successful, because you stained not only you can stain the mortar and the brick and pretty much achieve any finish, so I guess you analyze that when you see what's there.
Yeah, and we've used that before
Yeah.
pretty successfully.
Okay, good. Let's move to, if there's no other questions, let's go to public comment. I think we just have one, Mr. Ward Miller.
Yes, hi, again, Ward Miller, Richard H. Treehouse, Executive Director of Preservation Chicago. I think projects like this really show the power of landmarks. We have a couple of smaller buildings here that are now being linked together with an infill building. And had we not brought this landmark district about, who knows what this district would look like? I'm sure it would be 50-story high rises in a canyon. So here we are now talking about how to preserve these wonderful structures that tell a great history of concessions and food markets and whatnot, provision institutions, all in this great district. And also the flexibility that you can remove a building that doesn't fit landmarks requirements and replace it with a really nice building with high standards, and that's power to the department and a group of standards that even go beyond the landmark district. So this is really exciting. I think we really like the idea of the sort of stepped effect that has now been achieved going one level down. It really gives a certain authenticity to the district. And of course, without this landmark district, we would have lost so many of these great restaurants that our city is known for. So it really does provide an opportunity for a better city. And these kinds of projects are really wonderful to see a reinvestment in buildings, which, 10, 15, 20 years ago may have been lost to demolition. So it really gives Chicago a sense of authenticity, the neighborhood a sense of authenticity. And you can see by the new construction that this is really a welcomed district, and it does have some flexibility built into it. We very much support this project.
Can
Thank
you
you.
jump to one of the views? Should have been looking at that while you were talking.
There you go.
There we go.
So, that stepped effect, it's a great improvement over the 4-story building. And to see this sort of downgrade all the way to the far building on the west. It's really a beautiful complex, and it does show that these can be reusable buildings and very flexible, and there's a human scale to all this. It's really important as well, especially when you go a block to the east or to the west and you see these enormous structures going up. Again, this reinforces a district, and it's one of the most popular places to be in downtown Chicago. And I just want to thank the developer, the landmark staff, and all of you for having the courage to push forward with this district when it was not so popular. Thank you.
Very well said. It's most vibrant areas in our city now. An incredible community. So, but also I wanted to say that the presentation is extremely well done, testament to the collaboration that you guys put forth, and also all the drawings. This tells a story super clear. So well done. And any other final points of discussion?
No, it's,
Steve?
interesting journey that's it.
Yeah.
Good luck.
All right, is there a motion to adopt staff recommendation? So moved, Commissioner Bear, seconded, Commissioner Rubin, I'm a yes, and the motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Thanks so much. All right. Okay.
All right. Number 4, 1811 South Prairie in the 3rd Ward, Prairie Avenue District, and we are talking about the proposed recladding of the side and rear elevations with the new face brick and new garage doors on the rear elevation. And Chris Ramos has presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The subject property is the former Joseph G. Pullman House. The home was designed by the architectural firm Cobb and Frost in the Richardsonian Romanesque style. It was most recently occupied by the U.S. Soccer Federation as its national headquarters and is proposed to be converted back to a single-family residence. Our permit was received by historic preservation staff as a major exterior renovation project proposing to remove and replace the non-historic arch coating on the side elevations and rear elevation. Staff had requested that the scope be reduced to just the removal of the arch coating and to contact staff to meet on site to evaluate the condition of the remaining brick to determine next steps. After the arch coating was removed, staff met with the architect on site in June. It was found that underneath the arch coating is base brick ranging in colors from dark brown to red and orange and common bond, utilizing brick detailing such as brick arch lintels above the windows and opening brick at the base. Staff observed that most of the brick surface was scalded and crumbling. The face of the brick was also damaged by the fasteners used to attach the metal lap used for the arch coating to the brick. The architect estimates up to 90% of the total surface area of the existing outer white was severely deteriorated prior to the cement parging being installed. Staff agrees that the brick is damaged beyond repair and warrants full replacement. The architect is proposing to use a combination of Raptor Red Multi and Fireball Orange bricks by Glengarry to reclad the side and rear elevations. Only the outer white of brick will be removed, with the backup wides to remain in place. The width of the wall will remain the same and there will be no increase in the footprint. The architect submitted overall and close-up photos of the facade that show the existing conditions and detailing, such as coursing and brick patterns, which will be used as an aid for installing the new exterior white. Staff recommend that scaled and dimension wall section details of the existing walls and the wall with the new exterior white brick be included in the permit drawings. Staff also recommend approval for the proposed bricks as they closely match the historic brick in size, color variation, and finish, and will be installed to match the historic coursing and brickwork detailing. The mortar joint size and profile will also be maintained. There are 3 locations on the brownstone return on the north elevation that were covered with cement arch coating and scored to appear as large smooth masonry units. The applicant removed the arch coating, which revealed brick underneath, which had similar spalling and damage to the brick found on the rest of the elevation. A historic photo here on left shows these locations as infilled. Staff recommend removing the damaged brick in these locations and infilling them with a smooth brick that matches the color of the brownstone. The applicant is proposing to install 2 new 16 feet wide by 7 feet tall roll-up garage doors on the rear elevation that faces the alley, provide parking in the current electrical storage room. A new decorative stable door, double door on the south side elevation is proposed to be installed in an existing large masonry opening that historically had stable doors. It is currently infilled with plywood. Staff recommend approval for these new garage doors as they can be accessed through the alley and do not have a negative impact on the facades visible from the public way. Cut sheets showing the materials and design should be submitted with permit drawings. As far as other work, the existing stone sills will be cataloged, removed, and cleaned, and then reinstalled in the same location with replacements as required. The existing clay coping at the parapets are proposed to be cleaned and reinstalled. Staff recommend that any stone sills or clay coping that are damaged beyond repair and require replacement should match the historic and material size, shape, profile, color, and finish. New bronze finish gutters and downspouts are proposed to be installed on the side and rear elevations, and no work to the brownstone or the windows on the front facade is proposed. The project as proposed may require relief from otherwise applicable zoning requirements, and the commission takes no position regarding any requested relief relative to the zoning requirements. And that concludes my presentation. The architect is also here, so please let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Any questions for Joyce?
I'm assuming that that interior white brick is fine, no need for into this.
According to the architect's time, but if you, architect wants to speak more on that.
Adam Wilmot, the CPD Architects. Based on I mean, it's a fairly limited sample size, but yeah, where we have removed the outer white, the inner whites to be perfectly fine. There's been no interior demolition on the inside of the building yet, so we don't know, if we have damage all the way through. Obviously, we'll address that when the time comes, but for the time being, the only scope of work that they're looking to accomplish right now is the exterior to get that restored back to its sort of original glory. and keep the building healthy for the foreseeable future.
Even when the parge coating was initially put on.
Do I know when it was put
Yeah,
on?
like what does it take? to the building?
We don't know. There's no record on permit history for this property. Well, there is, but not for that.
Sure.
My assumption is that it was done either when the Soccer Federation took it on as a way of just sort of mitigating the ongoing damage that I'm sure was there.
Any other questions?
Just curious, we don't have much about the original coursing pattern, and things like that, it's gonna be getting matched to, you can share or describe it.
It's a fairly standard running bond. Other than that, the brick size itself is unique. So the brick that we have found is really one of the only ones, to our knowledge, the only one that is a close enough match where we're able to maintain the same mortar bed joint that is existing.
Is it is it gonna be like a 50-50 mix of the two colors that were identified, or is it less of the?
I'd say it'll be close to a 50-50 mix. It'll be something that we go out and monitor as the mason is doing the work to kind of direct what we think is most appropriate. There's a certain artistic touch to that, I suppose. It's hard to say exactly what that's going to be, but from what we can see, and the photographs are maybe a little bit difficult to tell. It's a fairly even distribution of the different tones that are there now. So we would look to maintain that.
Great. Any other questions? Seeing none, I don't believe anyone's signed to speak on this item. So, any final discussion, commissioners? Seeing none, I'd like to, request a motion to adopt the staff recommendations. So moved by Commissioner Rubin, second by Commissioner Fair, and, yes, and the motion carries unanimously. Thank you, best of luck with that. Okay, item number 5, 4359 South Michigan. Third Ward, Eighth Church of Christ, Baptist. Proposed renovation of the building, including restoration of the cupola, addition of exterior ramps to provide accessibility, reconfiguration of the floor structure within the auditorium, and new fixtures, finishes, and painted decorations. And, switching up the title. Okay, the presentation.
Good afternoon. Subject building is an individually designated masonry church located in Bronzeville at the northeast corner of South Michigan and East 44th Street. It was built in 1911 as the Eighth Church of Christ, scientist, and was designed by architect Leon E. Stanthorpe. It features a unique blend of styles with an exterior influenced by Greek and Roman temples. A large dome defines both the massing of the building and the interior space of the main auditorium. It was home to a series of different congregations before it was sold to the Zakat Foundation, a humanitarian aid and charity organization. The Zakat Foundation plans to convert the church to a multi-use building that will be its headquarters as well as a venue for conferences, training, and community programming. The scope of work for this conversion will involve restoration of both exterior and interior features, upgrades, and reconfiguration of some spaces. The significant features, as identified in the designation ordinance, are all exteriors and roof lines, as well as the main foyer and auditorium spaces on the interior. A cupola existed atop the dome that was removed by the building's previous owners without a permit in 2018. Fortunately, it started. The cupola is proposed to be replaced with a new one, matching the original as close as possible, based on the beautiful photos. To provide a new accessible route and entrance, a ramp is proposed to be added at the south of the building on 44th Street, the center of the porch, two existing porches and stairs. This will require excavation of a portion of the landscaping, the foundation of the ramp, short sections of the railing along the east edge of the west porch, as well as the stone curb must be demolished so that the ramp can connect to the existing porch and the sidewalk. The rest of the historic railings and curb will be retained. Staff recommend this location for the ramp is appropriate as it will not obscure or significantly alter the character of the exterior, and the limited amount of demolition will not constitute the loss of features or craftsmanship that define the buildings. Another ramp is proposed to be added at the rear in the northeast corner of the building alley. This ramp will only be visible from the alley and will only affect the common brick portion of the north side elevation. The ceiling beneath the roof of the portico is proposed to be painted with a Turkish-inspired motif. Although part exterior, this portion of the ceiling is recessed high above the architrave frieze and is not visible from the public way. Paint can be removed or painted over in the future and is therefore reversible. Does the staff recommend it will not be a reverse effect? Notes on the drawing state the windows, that windows will be replaced and the windows are tagged, but no window schedule is provided to clarify which windows will be replaced. A complete window schedule should be provided, noting windows as either existing or new, and any new windows must match the originals as closely as possible in operational profile. Details should be provided for these finished drawings. Other proposed exterior work includes repairs to the limestone masonry and mortar joints, repairs to the roofing and eaves, and repairs to the stone and concrete in the stairs, porches, and retaining walls. On the interior designated spaces are the main foyer on the first floor, highlighted on the left, and the second floor auditorium shown at right. The most significant change proposed to the auditorium is the reconfiguration of the floor structure and seating. The original floor was sloped like a shallow theater, concentric curved rows of wooden pews radiating out from a speaker's platform. The previous owners began a project to reconfigure the seating and removed the historic speaker's platform, pews, wood flooring, and floor substructure. Most of the pews were discarded and construction of a new floor structure was begun. All of this work was done without permit, and violations were issued. The new floor structure that was partially completed, visible in these photos, does not meet the structural requirements of the building code and must be rebuilt again for the auditorium to have a code-compliant floor structure. The proposed new floor structure would have a total of 4 flat levels, tiered upward toward perimeter. The first level is the largest, to be built at the same level as the top landing of the central stair. The next level up is curved, similar to the curve of the rows of pews. The final 2 levels are located at the rear under the lower sections of the ceiling, outside the area beneath the dome. New symmetrical stairs connect all floor levels. The first and second levels are also served by wide ramps on either side that follow the slope of the original floor, making the majority of the space accessible. New fixed seating would not be installed, rather movable seating would be used for flexibility. New guardrails are required at the edge of the ramps and for the ramps and at the edge of each seating level, identified as blue. And new tile is proposed to be installed at the vertical edges of each tier of the floor levels. The applicants propose to apply a painted pattern on the dome and some portions of the ceiling. This will be a colorful design based on decorative patterns typical of mosques. The design will be hand painted by a qualified artist. Designs will be composed of paint on the surface of the plaster only and will not alter the structure or materials of the ceiling in any way. Although this will change the overall character of the space, staff believes it is reversible and is still consistent with the architecture of the space. The existing hanging light fixtures manufactured by the American X-ray Reflector Company are proposed to be restored and repaired and will remain functional. It may be necessary to adapt them to be illuminated using different light sources such as LEDs or different type of bulb. This will not affect their appearance because the bulbs are concealed behind the metal shades and light is cast upward onto the ceiling. The new use will include events and activities at night more frequently, so additional light fixtures are required. The ring-shaped fixtures pictured in the rendering are an example, but not an actual specification for the additional fixtures, as they have not yet been a specification has not yet been provided. The new fixtures should be simple and minimal, so they are differentiated from and do not compete with the decorative historic fixtures. And they should be mounted at locations where they will not damage any decorative plasterwork on the walls or ceilings. The main foyer has a shallow vaulted ceiling with arches resting on 2 freestanding columns near the center. The space is also furnished with hanging light fixtures similar to those in the auditorium, but smaller and simpler in design. The entire floor is finished with black and white mosaic tile featuring an ornate Greek key pattern running along most of the perimeter. Similar to the auditorium space, portions of the walls and columns in the foyer are proposed to be painted with decorative patterns. The northwest corner of the lobby is proposed to be used as a small cafe as shown in the rendering at left. The counter and equipment for the cafe are movable rather than built in and will not require attachment to the tile floor. A sink is required for the cafe, which will need to be plumbed, but new penetrations for the supply and drain will be made to a plaster wall rather than a decorative tile floor. This is reversible as it will not require damage to the mosaic. Like the auditorium, new light fixtures and accent lighting are proposed in the floor. Other work elsewhere in the building will also retain and preserve historic elements such as hardware and original fireplaces, but this work is outside the designated interior spaces and not subject to our review. In the future, the applicants also intend to complete more restoration work, including restoration of the wood exterior doors, making repairs to the decorative art glass windows, and refurbishing the exterior railings and ironwork. They also intend to install exterior lighting. This work is described in the decor plan that you received with your packets, but is not included in the scope of the permit application that is before you today. It will be reviewed under separate permits and may require future review by the committee as necessary when the scope is finalized. Staff recommend approval of the scope of work before you with these conditions. The permit drawings dated 11/11/24 shall be revised to address the following. The exterior elevation shall clearly note the cupola to be reconstructed based on photos rather than to be repaired. And large drawings for the cupola that identify the structure, exterior material, finish, and means of attachment to the roof shall be included on the permit plans. Window schedule I mentioned in the presentation. The auditorium flooring shall be wood or wood laminate, and a product shall be noted in the roof finish schedule. A specification for the Turkish tiles mentioned in the presentation. And specifications for all new guardrails, fixtures, light fixtures. And then finally, the ceiling between the front portico may be painted as proposed. The existing carved lettering and column capitals at the front elevation shall not be gilded. A note about that condition, the applicants initially proposed to cover that inscription and column capitals in a gilding. They've already agreed to the condition, but I'm mentioning it because it's still mentioned in the decor plan that you received. Alderman Dowd is in support, and the architect and the team from the Zizicat Foundation are here today.
Great.
Concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Tyler, any questions for Tyler on this project?
Yeah, I had a question. The painting is really interesting.
Yeah.
Project. I was wondering with the portico ceiling, was there historically any type of paint treatment on the other side of that? Is there any that is there right now?
There is, we go back to you can see a little bit, there's some gold leaf and some blue painting. They're not changing that. That'll still be there. We actually internally went back and forth over whether this was appropriate, because it does significantly change the character of the space.
Sure.
Ultimately, we decided, for one thing, it's completely reversible. And the architecture of the space is actually based on mosques already.
It's got a color to it.
Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't, we didn't see it as incompatible with the architecture.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Tyler before we hear from the applicant? Seeing none, let's hear from the applicant, the architect,
Yes, Carl Greider, Greider Group LLC, the architect of record for the project. Just to clarify, it's important for the project as a whole, the window will be existing to remain. And we'll have to, do some patch repair probably, of course, those will be, so we'll clarify that in the documents. That was probably the big one that I wanted to cover, but all the other stipulations, recommendations, I don't see as being an issue. And as well, the cupola, we do have a design for it based off what I was able to try to find, which is not very much. So it's our best guess at it. However, if there's any, okay. Yeah,
I found a very clear photo.
Okay.
Buried in a
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we will.
I'll send that to you.
No problem.
it's incredible, it's great that you're including that in the project. Yes. Is that copper or what is that material now what's the cupola was?
It was some kind of pressed metal over a metal frame. And it actually was part of the ventilation system originally. It had a vent in it.
It will match that because the form of it, is easiest to match up with metal anyway.
Yeah.
But the new one will not necessarily need to be metal or be used for ventilation. It needs to look the same.
Right.
Um,
Okay, any other questions?
Just be curious to hear more about, programming. I mean, this is a really interesting project, especially the use of.
We have the honor here, and there's a CAT Foundation, and I think Mr. Demir can speak to the use.
Thank you so much, allowing us to come here, that's why thank you to that. This building is so unique and so special. Chicago is a very special city. Chicago has a memory and has an imagination for the future. And this building resembles exactly that. So look at these. I'm the believer of the Samuel Huntington wrote this book, Clash of Civilization, and he sold a lot, he made a lot of money. But I'm a believer of the civilization actually build on each other, support each other, and enhance each other. And this building resembles that. Look at it. So I was 2 days ago in Istanbul, and I was standing on front of the Hagia Sophia. And I look at this beautiful building for hundreds of years that inspires so many people. And this building resembles exactly that. The same family who came from Spain, those built the Hagia Sophia and other churches and they also built in that same very tradition. When you look at these, you will see the Egyptian civilization, you will see the Greek civilization, you will see the Roman civilization, and the Oriental Islamic civilization built together. And I'm thinking such a building, such a treasure should be a beautiful, welcoming building for everyone when we repair and renovate and beautifully completed. So when I look at this building, there are a lot of buildings for sale for purpose, but the wall inside that Taylor says actually wall collapsed over inside. Wall places the walls were collapsed, and so you don't see them because the walls were fixed. And the fuse were removed because you couldn't actually step on from the rotten. A tree fell on the building, open a hole, and water was running inside, and fuse and wood was rotten, so you couldn't really walk on this wood. So we removed it. You don't see this because we fixed. I brought the professionals who can really create almost the same as it was. So this building is full of love, and I'm hoping when we copy this building going to be a welcoming for the community, and it's going to be for multi-purpose. People can enjoy the intellectual discussion, the religious discussion, and the coffee that welcoming the community, and the kids that can come and have after-school programs. This building has a memory, and I would like to this building build imagination for our community.
And I also want to say thank you guys. I know this is a process, but I just want to say thank you for having us, for what it's worth. I am the wife of this guy here. I'm also one of the co-founders of our foundation. I wear a lot of different hats. I serve as a health advisor, but I'm also an interior designer. So this is my project. And I just wanted to add to the wonderful things that Taylor said. Rest assured, this is not a mosque. We want to focus and dedicate. We're going to have a wing on the history of this church. Okay, that's very important to us, that we stick to the purpose of why this magnificent building was built. Okay, and as he said, if anybody wants to Google Hagia Sophia in the heart of Istanbul, it's a church. It's actually a church, but the architectural resemblance is very similar to a mosque, So we know this building was modeled after Hagia Sophia. So, and I just promised and had my word right here with this gentleman that our intention is to maintain its historical integrity. I'm in charge of that. I have harassed these people down to the screw. Think you want to change something? No. We are going to maintain it. I promise you guys we're going to do that. as my husband said, it's gonna be a great place to be for everybody to come. We're gonna have a wing, I'm gonna be working with the DeSable, this is extra, but I'm gonna be working with one of the curators at the DeSable Museum to make sure that we capture the history of this. This is Chicago. You know, so I just kind of want to say that it's a project very near and dear to our heart. And I hope that all of you guys will find your way to come when we have the grand opening. I hope you will be there to celebrate with us. Because we just think it's something that's gonna make people even more flock to Chicago. That's what we're hoping.
Thank you. What's your time frame for it?
Nothing.
As soon as you like that.
You can stop by for good and the coffee.
That's some good food. We'll maybe even have Turkish food for you guys. How about that? Yeah.
And last note, and I'm not gonna be nearly as profound as what they said, but one of the things that we're proud of is that we have made this a fully accessible facility. I think that's very important. Fortunately, these buildings at their age just weren't built with that in mind, but we were able to accomplish that without hurting the integrity of the building.
That's good. No, incredibly inspiring building space, and also like the ownership and the mission behind it is equally as inspiring, so it's just wonderful to look forward to seeing what happens with the space. Public comments, go for Mr. Ward Miller, second
The
speak.
sole public comment once again. Ward Miller, for the record, Richard H. House Executive Director of Preservation Chicago. What an exciting project. How can anyone top what was just stated by the ownership? And yes, I was in Istanbul 2 years ago and saw Saint Sophia, Hagia Sophia. And of course, the inspiration from its earliest origins in Constantinople to its mosque now and museum in Istanbul as a world monument, world treasure. This is a beautiful building. I remember when it was landmarked. I remember being in it when it was a Christian Science church or one of its iterations thereafter. This is an amazing project. It's an amazing building, heart of Bronzeville. I think this will be a great asset to the community. When I look at that dome, I see the cultural center dome, although I know this is really a painted surface versus art glass. But I see the care and the beauty that's come about. I think that's a true dedication to this building. I also have about 20 other houses of worship, mostly Catholic churches now closed, that I'd like to talk to you about. Because this is always a challenge. But what a great reuse for these historic houses of worship. You don't see this, and you don't see this everywhere. And this is really a great example of the power of landmarks, once again, to encourage reuses of these really fabulous buildings, even beyond their initial occupants and builders. So we very much support this idea. Look forward to coming and visiting when it's completed. So Preservation Chicago is 100% on board with this idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Miller. There are no further public comments. I'd like to have the final discussion. Commissioners.
I guess it's just the one modification to the staff recommendation about the windows. But otherwise, you know, to accept the recommendations with that single modification.
Okay, we have a motion on the table with a slight modification for the windows to remove, I think it was. Repairs. And do we have a second?
You do.
Yes as well. So the motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, project number 6, 458 West Dickens, 23rd Ward, Midtown District, and we're talking about the proposed addition of 2 stories containing dwelling units to the existing 1-story Mason grocery store building to convert it to mixed mercantile and residential use. And let's call on Tyler Taylor once again for this day.
Yes, we are. Let's see. So the project is, located, in the North District. It's what's that? The northeast corner of North Cleveland Ave and West Pickens Ave in the North District. It is a neighborhood grocery store. It consists of 3 sections that have been defined to function as one building. The section on the corner is a 3-story Queen Anne style building with a ground floor commercial space and residences above that's contributing to the district. This storefronts have been modified, but otherwise retains a high degree of integrity. The lower east or middle and east sections only contain the grocery store and its back of house spaces. So let's go to the Pike Point. The owner of the building proposes to add 2 stories to dwelling units above the existing first story of the 2 sections to the east. The building footprint and overall site plan are the same. An early map from 1886 all the way at left shows a different building previously existed on the site, but by 1910, by the 1910 Sanborn, the corner building had been built, as well as 3 one-story buildings in the middle of the block and 2 separate buildings to the east at the alley. The 1935 Sanborn shows the 3 one-story buildings had been combined into one, and this condition remained through the 1950 Sanborn. By the most recent Sanborn, the east 2 buildings had been demolished and replaced with a new one in 1970, making it non-contributing to the district. The middle 1-story section is clad in the same brick as the east section and was likely modified at some time or at the same time. This section originally had at least 2 storefront openings, which have been infilled with plaster panels decorated with colorful murals. 2 cast iron columns remain exposed on the facade, identified by the white arrows. Other than the columns, the rest of the facade has been altered and all other original materials have been lost. Staff recommend this middle section lacks sufficient integrity to be contributing to the district, and the proposed demolition of the face brick and parapet coping on the front facade of both these sections to accommodate the new addition will not remove any historic materials or decorative features. So quickly, this elevation shows the area of exterior cladding to be demolished to accommodate the new addition. Okay, the design of the addition is intended to allow the grocery store to stay open for business during construction. The roof structure of the middle section and second floor of the east section will remain, becoming the second floor level of the expanded building. The additional stories and proposed modifications to the first floor elevation of both sections will result in a building that appears to be a single new construction building standing along Dickens between the historic corner section and the alley. The new facade on Dickens is composed of 6 bays based on the spacing of the remaining iron columns within the facade. Additional columns based on the design of the original ones are proposed to be added along the remainder of the first story, and the space between the columns is to contain panels decorated with murals matching the existing one. In landmark districts, glazed storefronts should typically be included at the first floor, allowing views into the ground floor interior space. However, in this case, the existing exterior wall of the grocery store does not already have storefront openings, and adding them would interrupt the operation of the business. From the second story up to the parapet, the divisions created by the columns are continued as piers of protruding brick 1 feet wide. These echo the wider vertical piers on the south facade of the corner building, but are not a direct copy. The new height will be 3 stories and 43 feet to the parapet, matching the height of the parapet of the corner building. The proposed building mass will require a reduction in the required setback from the residential stories from the alley. The setback will require zoning relief, but the applicants have already started the process to request this relief. Larger multi-story, multi-unit buildings are common in the district. Examples nearby include buildings at 2100 to 2104 North Hudson, 2101 to 400 West Dickens, 338 to 350 West Dickens, etc. Staff recommend the proposed building is within the range of heights, widths, and overall massing of similar buildings in the district. The actual entrances for the residential floors are proposed at the alley to the east, highlighted in red through an existing entrance. Oh, and through an existing entrance at the northwest corner of Cleveland. The layout of the existing grocery store and its support spaces on the first and second floors does not allow a new entrance to be created on Dickens without requiring significant disruption to the operation of the grocery store. However, all similar buildings in the district have at least one well-defined main entrance facing the street, typically at or near the center of the facade. To address this, the applicants propose to add a false entrance on Dickens within the second bay from the east, which is already differentiated from the other bays by having 2 rather than 3 windows on the upper floors. While this is unusual, staff recommend it's appropriate in this circumstance so that the modified building is consistent with other contributing residential buildings in the district. The proposed false entrance consists of a large single door with the transom window above, surrounded by a shallow arch. Staff recommend the false door should be a real wood door, even if it's permanently fixed closed, and the glazed transom above the door should also be real with clear glazing. Enlarged elevation of the door, specification for the transom, materials and details for the arch surround should be provided with the further drawings. The brick proposed for the new facade is a brown brick intended to match the existing brick color of the middle and east sections. However, very little of the existing brick will be left after the work is complete, except for a 10-foot section at the alley that is existing to remain to the right of the dashed line in this rendering. Rather than match the color of this section, staff recommend the new face brick should be a different color so that the 3-story portion of the building appears separate from both the corner and alley sections. The new face brick color should complement the corner building and should be within the range of brick colors found in the district with matching color border. The secondary brick is a Chicago common brick used on the secondary elevations. Additional details like the sills, horizontal bands, and cornice are proposed to be a light tan precast concrete. Staff recommend approval of this material as it is similar to, but not an exact match for the prominent limestone window sills and headers on the corner building. Staff further recommend the new proposed materials at the first story should be, murals should be artistic only and should not contain a commercial message. The windows of the upper stories are proposed to be clad wood, double hung windows with a bronze colored finish. These are typical of the district and staff recommend approval. Staff recommend approval of the project with these conditions as mentioned in the presentation. Alderman Knudsen's office has reviewed the proposal and is in support. The Mid-North Association has also reviewed the proposal and is in support and have provided a letter of support that was distributed to you. Victor Drapso of our architects is here and available to answer your questions.
All right. Thank you, Tyler. Any questions for Tyler before we hear from the architect? Where's the real door?
The real, so highlighted in red, there's an existing, on the left, you can see there's the existing residential door for the existing residential parts of the corner building. And then on the right is basically that. And the entrance in the top right there is the only place that it could have been added because the support spaces, those identified by the meters, those are existing to remain. And so they're sort of filling in the rest of that second floor with residences. But there wasn't a way to add, there's also a stair down there on the south and on the to the right that serves those support spaces. So there's really no good place to put a real entrance without shutting down the grocery store for some period of time, which kind of the goal is to keep it going to make the project viable.
Interesting.
Yeah, so hence the figure.
Just to clarify one thing first with you, and the Main Street that's being proposed for the 3 different stories.
Yeah.
You're saying that you prefer something different there.
Yeah, so because it's all not original, it's matching the it's basically matching in the like this brick.
Yep.
And so
So you're saying
really what it's about is see that little section all the way to the right with the triple window, that's gonna remain. because it's part of the grocery store. And we thought it would be better to have the main three-story section read basically as a single volume, with that smaller section appear to just be kind of like a utilitarian attachment, rather than having it all one Facebook color.
And that's not currently shown.
No, it's all coded as one color. So basically, it would just be keeping that right section the same, and then just choosing a new color for the rest of the three-story section.
Alright.
And it's mid-north, so there's a really wide variety of colors to choose.
So there's further study there. Yeah. Needed. Any other questions for Tyler before we hear from the architect?
Hello, my name is Victor Dapsa. I'm from Red Architects. And it was a great pleasure working with you guys, you know, and going back and forth, and kind of, we feel we kind of accomplished really well with the final design. Provided, you know, what the owner actually intended, you know, giving a little bit extra value on the grocery store. He said he did have issues with, you know, with the monetary issues with the keeping the building up. In some cases, this will kind of bring additional income to the building, to the owner, and finally kind of be able to fix up all the necessary things that are just being a little bit depleted on the building. But going back to the main entrance to the building, it's actually going to be, the main entrance will be the original entrance from the side. I mean, not from the alley, it's from the side street. We feel that will be our best main entrance, and the second entrance will be like an exit, the second exit. The murals are definitely going to be a beautiful touch to the neighborhood. They've been beautifying this neighborhood for quite a bit of time already. So I think this, as you can see, this really didn't fit the neighborhood at all. You had one big three-story building, then it's kind of just almost like a missing tooth. This really kind of brought the building together, and with the other buildings across the alley on the same street. So again, thank you. It was really great working with you guys.
Questions? No?
Yeah, no, I don't have questions. I'm just more discussion.
Okay. Alright,
So
I'll save for discussion too. Let's hear for a public comment then. Since Mr. Ward Miller has signed up.
I signed up in support with that. I thought I'd spare you the comments, but a really wonderful first-class project. And an asset for the neighborhood.
Great, thank you, and that brings us to the final discussion.
yeah, no, I think just appreciating, understanding the intent of having kind of these break points in the masonry and detailing. You know, it's trying to wrap my head around, you know, there are aspects of it that want to, you know, tie a little bit more, but I think, you know, you kind of have to draw a line in the sand and say, no, we're being intentional that this is the line, this is the addition that's new. And I think the thing I was maybe a little hung up on just visually is just the precast, the larger band instead of the precast. Yeah, that's a significant transition from, you know, the original structure that's at the corner. That, but I think I could go either way.
I just wanted to say, I had similar thoughts on that, with especially the top one, the top band, but also I'm curious, maybe there's reasons for this too. You know, just, there's some interesting parts. I know we're trying to distinguish between the corner building and this, and I think we should. But there's some nice parts to the corner building, particularly the height of the window. You know, there, you know, that kind of, I don't know if there's a way to do that, or if that would look like too much glass, but that's one thing I was thinking. You know, you could think about the band that's right above the mural area and keep that maybe, because the old building kind of has that horizontal. But then it goes to more like a sill and a header. And I don't know, there might be something there that could warrant at least a look. See how that plays out. I don't know, that's a lot.
I mean, you know, we did kind of try to match the existing windows with you know, existing some sills that are there. You know, it is good to kind of distinguish that, you know, from old to new. But I think, you know, we tried, but I think it came out pretty good.
Would be nicer with elongated windows that match the original openings.
Is there a height difference for the first floor though, and where the roof line is that are not touching? Because that could be an issue for where the store, the grocery store is, correct?
There's basically the roof of part of the grocery store is becoming the floor structure, so there's a bigger gap between.
There's
it wasn't-
structural
yeah,
limits
it
to
wasn't-
where they can go.
So
It wasn't, yeah,
So what we're trying to do is, in order to keep the grocery store, working, we're keeping the existing roof and we're building a new structure above it. So, and we're dealing with also the slope that's there, so.
So that was
it's-
my rationale for saying why the windows don't line up, is that you're dealing with a structural condition that you have to raise it up.
Out of curiosity, what's your sill height then on your first floor? Or on your second floor?
Well, I don't have that information, but I think it's gonna be about 16, 17 feet.
Like above the floor line, are you
On
24
interior.
inches or?
From,
Interior.
Yeah, and you're inside,
from inside, we're probably gonna be like 2 feet.
so you're 2 feet.
basically the floor
Probably should
level
come down.
of that second floor, and the addition is way higher than the second floor level of the corner building.
Yeah, so you'd be like bringing the sill down below.
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes sense. No, thank you for that clarification. I think maybe the only other thing I'm reacting to is just, it's probably just rendering, but, that precast, you know, there's like a little sample of what it's supposed to look like, which is more tan or buff, which I think, you know, would probably be more fitting. It looks just a little gray in the rendering, so it's probably just a visual thing.
We'll try to match, you know, more of the original tone.
Yeah, if that's the intent, I think
Sure.
that'll help out.
Okay.
Yeah. So with all that said, I think we're still at the same.
I think we're not requesting any revisions. All right, any other final points? Commissioners, then I'd like to request a motion to adopt the staff recommendation. Second. Motion second, moved by Commissioner Fair, second by Commissioner Rubin, and I'm a yes as well, so very good. Congratulations, the motion carries unanimously. Yeah, good luck with this one. All right, we're moving on to project number 7, 1357 North Elston, yes, 27th Ward, Morton Salt Company Warehouse Complex. Proposed installation of one 4-foot by 3'8" and one 4-foot by 8-foot non-illuminated cabinet signs at the south and east elevations of the inner courtyard and on the top. I'm gonna go for that.
Yes, thank you. So you're familiar, I'm sure, with the Morton Salt Company warehouse complex, built in 1930, designed by Graham Anderson Probst White. The complex occupies a roughly triangular site bounded by the north branch of the Chicago River, Elston Avenue, and Blackhawk Street. So for this, the applicant is proposing 2 new signs on the courtyard elevations of the building. These signs will be approximately 28 feet above grade, which therefore require a council order, which then triggers PRC review. So the proposed signs are additional signage for Reverb, who is a primary tenant in the building, and are located to face the courtyard east of the packaging building. Each one is composed of a 4-inch thick black cabinet and non-illuminated vinyl lettering. The smaller sign, which is 4 feet tall by 3 foot 8 inches long, is proposed to be located on the south elevation and will read Buy Sell Play. And the second sign is 4 by 8 just adjacent to the first on the east courtyard elevation. And will reverb the marketplace for music makers. Each sign will be set back approximately 4 inches from the corner of the building. So staff recommend that because of the size, location, and lack of illumination, the signs will not be an adverse effect to the building. And staff recommend that, as proposed, any attachments required should be located within mortar joints as often as possible. So I'm here if you have questions, and we have Greg from the sign company too.
All right, thank you, Emily. Any questions for Ellen?
Just a random one out of curiosity, was there any sign in this location before, or is this the first one?
This is the first one, because I think this was all just like back of house.
Are there other retailers on the complex who are also gonna be putting up signs?
There are some on the lower level, but Reverb, I don't know if you remember, a couple of months ago, we took those new masonry openings, big new windows, that's the main entrance for Reverb, so other than the salt shed itself, I think this is probably the primary tenant.
And the giant neon flying V that's come down from the Hard Rock Cafe isn't available. Not a real question. I check it from the record.
Okay.
No.
Let's hear from the project representative, Frank Lember.
Thank you for the presentation, Emily. Yeah, initially we had it cornered and that was not allowed. So luckily I did create 2 DOB applications, so we were able to split them, 4 inches on the corner. The primary entrance is off Black Hawk and that was approved already by staff. And they had a smaller little blade sign that was facing Elston kind of, but a very small, less than 2 square foot blade sign, so. This is just a private area facing in the courtyard, facing the lake and the seating area or restaurant, or I guess patio area, and, any other questions on it?
Just out of curiosity, some more detail, what's the whole back on that corner that you've got? Is it 6 inches or so, the whole back that you're?
4 inches.
It's 4 inches, a 4-inch depth, 4 inches on the corner.
Gotcha.
Yeah, on each side.
Okay. And,
Any other comments, questions?
That was a quick art by me, by the way, but I thought.
That's good. No public comments for this item, so final discussion, final points? No, okay. No further discussion. I'd like to request a motion to adopt staff recommendations. So moved. So moved, Commissioner Rubin, second by Commissioner Fair, and I'm yes, motion carries unanimously. All right. Very good. Thanks, Rick. Okay, our final project for today, 321 West Menominee, 43rd Ward, Old Town Triangle District. The proposed construction of a new rooftop addition atop an existing 2-story single-family residence. Joyce Ramos has a staff presentation.
Thank you. The subject building is a 2-story red brick single-family residence constructed sometime between 1900 and 1909. It is located mid-block on Menominee, on the south side of Menominee Street. The applicant contacted historic preservation staff, pre-permit to discuss exterior and interior renovations as well as this addition. The applicant proposes to construct a new 22 feet wide by 16 feet deep by 10 feet high rooftop addition shown in yellow to be accessed by an existing rooftop stair enclosure shown in blue. The addition would be set back about 22 feet, 7.5 inches from the front facade and clad in a dark colored green screen wall construction with joint lines that reference the masonry detailing of the main house with divided light casement windows. Per commission guidelines, additions are allowed if they do not alter, change, obscure, damage, or destroy any significant features of the district. Of particular concern are the effects of an addition on the building's historic relationship to its site on a building size, shape, and roof line. In order to more accurately evaluate the visibility of the rooftop addition, historic preservation staff requested to review an on-site temporary mock-up. Staff met with the architect and owner at the property on June 11th and photographed the property from several vantage points along the public way. At vantage point 1, when standing directly in front of the house on Menominee, the rooftop addition is not visible. At vantage point 2, standing west of the house on Menominee, in the northeast corner of Menominee and Orleans, portions of the front facade, portions of the front and side elevations of the rooftop addition are visible. At Vantage Point 3, standing further west on Menominee at the northwest corner of Menominee and Orleans, the full length of the front elevation and a portion of the side elevation for the rooftop addition are visible. At Vantage Point 4, standing one house north on the west side of Orleans, the full length of the front elevation and the full length of the side elevation are visible. The wood post that represents the rear wall of the rooftop addition is also visible, which suggests that if the front of the rooftop addition was pushed back to that location, that it would still be visible. At Vantage Point 5 on Menominee, west of Orleans, the front elevation begins to get screened, and the side elevation is completely screened by the adjacent property. At Vantage Point 6, standing further west on Menominee, the stair enclosure and portion of the front elevation of the rooftop addition is not visible. At Vantage Point 7, standing east of the house of Menominee, the stair enclosure and a portion of the front elevation for the rooftop addition is visible. At Vantage Point 8, standing directly in front of the east side elevation, the existing stair enclosure and the proposed rooftop addition would be visible. Since the addition would be highly visible from several vantage points on the public way, staff requested to move the mock-up further to the rear and reevaluate its visibility. The applicant moved the mock-up approximately 5 feet to the south to be in line with the rooftop stair enclosure, which is set back about 27 feet 9 inches from the front facade. When standing further west of the house, at the northwest corner of Menominee and Orleans, the full length of the front elevation and a portion of the side elevation of the rooftop addition is visible. Upon further review, the applicant requested to not have the addition and stair enclosure aligned due to constructability issues and to have the front elevation offset by about 2 feet in front of the stair enclosure, with a setback of about 22 feet 9 inches from the front facade, which would still be very visible from the public way. Staff asked the applicant to consider other locations on the roof in order to minimize visibility and impact on the roof line on the front facade. And the applicant offered moving the addition another 5 feet towards the rear, shown in yellow, which would result in the front elevation of the addition to be in the middle of the existing stair enclosure. The applicant also studied the possibility of locating the addition at the southeast corner of the roof, shown in red. Staff extrapolated that in the location 5 feet towards the rear, which would result in the front elevation of the addition to be in the middle of the existing stair enclosure, the full length of the front elevation and a portion of the side elevation will still be visible when standing along these. In order to further minimize visibility, staff studied increasing the setback of the rooftop addition to 35 feet 9 inches from the front facade to be behind the existing stair enclosure. And at this location, the addition is less visible from above the roof line of the front facade, and the height of the addition appears to be lower and less massive than proposed, and more of the side elevation will be screened by the adjacent building. And shown here is the rooftop addition located towards the back of the roof at the southeast corner. According to the applicant, this location contorts the architectural impact of the house for the neighbors who look out the windows and takes away from the overall architectural presence of the house for the entire neighborhood to address a single view angle. It would also require the removal of some existing skylights. Staff extrapolated that the rooftop addition and corridor would be visible, but appears less massive than the other options and has the least impact on the roof line from the front facade. And for these reasons, staff recommend that the applicant relocate the rooftop addition to the southeast corner of the roof to be as far away as possible from the front facade. Staff also recommend that the cladding materials on the rooftop addition to be a dark, non-reflective color to differentiate it from historic masonry. Aside from the rooftop addition, the applicant is also proposing the following improvements to the house. Low profile photovoltaic panels to be below the existing parapet, a green roof to reduce the urban heat island effect, new highly efficient historic replacement windows, and tuck point to match the historic mortar on the front facade. Alderman Knudsen and the Old Town Triangle Association reviewed the proposal and are in full support. The property owner is here and also wishes to make a statement. Please let us know if there are any questions.
Thank you. Joyce? Any questions for Joyce before you? Okay. Let's hear from the applicant.
Hi.
Hi.
Evan Yan from the architecture firm of Yan. I'm also the owner of the house, and this is my first time going through the landmarks approval for private dwelling, so I appreciate Joyce's patience with me and some of my staff are sort of nascent to the process, but having lived in the structure for 5 years, it is just kind of eaten at me that there is a stair that goes up to the roof that leads to nowhere. And this stemmed from two owners previously had a roof deck up there. And the previous owner then removed that roof deck, but there is an open stair that goes through a double height space interior. So it creates actually an architectural element of the house that then goes up through the doghouse to essentially a blank roof. And I've been trying to come up with ideas of how to activate that roof in a manner that I feel like it would actually provide value to my family and also do something that could benefit the performance of the house. And my experience being on the Landmarks Illinois board and advocating for the environmental justice of historic structures and how we can adapt them using modern technology and methods to have them be contributing essences to the built environment. And that's where my desire to put on a landscape green roof and that would ballast the solar panels. The roof, what you're looking at here, already has a couple of areas where it has existing skylights. The spine down the middle has actually 3, and then what you see is that grid of solar panels is where the panels would be located. And because of the slope of the roof, the parapet becomes about close to 4.5 feet, I believe, back towards the rear of the house. So they would be clearly not visible. I think Joyce has done a great job analyzing the various locations of the addition, and you can see that this, no matter where it's located on the roof, there's still going to be some visibility. My perspective as an architect is that because it is visible in some manner, even creating an annex to the existing doghouse to service the location in the southeast, that for the architectural presence of the house, locating it in the center, still the right architectural solution for it. And when my neighbors look out from their windows and they are able to see this on the roof, it will look as a centered element on the house that complements the symmetry of the architecture that's already there. As you can see, it's already set back quite a bit, but there is the opportunity to move it back an additional from this, from its current proposed location of about almost 6 feet to that recessed location of about, Joyce, you had it up there, 29 feet, 29.9. And you know, I guess it's the nature of this house because it does not have a dwelling next to it. It's flanked by lower structures. It does have a street that Orleans is fairly wide, and it's also almost dead ending into the house, so it does make view points on this house they're challenging. But I'm an avid proponent of architectural preservation and historical sensitivity, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to live in this house and live in this neighborhood. But at the same time, I just want to make an element of the house become functional again.
Thank you. Any questions, commissioners?
I maybe had a question, and maybe it's for Joyce. There was a study, there was a 4F that was done. It looks like there's a story there.
No, it's not a story. I just don't think I put it in the PowerPoint presentation. I may have it in the packet. If you want, I can pull that up. Would I be able to get into the folder? Yes.
And it was more, I didn't know if that was, you know, what the staff outlook on that was, just, you know, trying to pull all the data. points.
While you're looking, I can ask you a question. So thank you for kind of giving the context for it. I understand a little better now. I'm the not architect on the panel. So you're kind of looking at this house, which already has a very symmetrical design, and saying that kind of from the perspective of your neighbors, looking at the house from the perspective of you living in it, having the addition kind of centralized on the top is going to meet that symmetry compared to the view from the street, which the commission is really kind of trying to prioritize seeing as little as possible from vantage points on the street. Do I kind of have that right? It's like you're looking to have it be more centralized to meet the symmetry, which is going to make it more visible from the street, but it's going to make kind of meet the needs of the house a little bit more. Yeah, there's also there's some structural limitations because the previous owner did take down load-bearing walls and essentially supplement them with trusses that are spanning that space. But without doing too much destructive investigation, the assumption is that those trusses probably don't have the capacity. They're only sized for the existing structure and not any additive. So locating it over the center of the house where there is load bearing walls seemed logical. Okay. As well. I agree that, you know, the sensitivity from the public way is important. And in the end, because the doghouse is currently visible, and even putting some form of, let's say, an annex that would be attached to that would connect to the southeast corner location would still be visible. So there's still some visibility from the street, and I'm asking to the architectural sensitivity to the symmetry. Sure. And these are not, you know, uniform houses. They're all in a row that have like very little space in between, like where this is placed on the block and the nature of the buildings around it. Like you're going to be able to see an addition here. It's hard to tuck away than like the dormers that we've seen. Workers' cottages, it seems. So I know that's not a complete thought. I'm getting to understand it a little better. Thank you.
Do you find what you're looking for?
Oh, yeah, I've seen that. They were probably just pulling
I just-
up on their side.
I just had, like another, just to try to understand the framework, a little bit in terms of additions and what has been approvable in the past and minimally visible is what we're trying typically, both visible, what tips we've approved visible before, but we're just trying to get them as minimal as possible, or can you help me understand?
It's not like a percentage,
Well,
minimal is the answer.
You have to consider the scale of the building that you are adding to. I mean, and yes, you are minimizing the visibility as much as possible to avoid an adverse impact on the roof line of that particular building. So it's really difficult to compare one to another because when you have a building of this lower scale, and you have a fairly visible addition on top of it, it can't help but impact it adversely as a roof line. When you deal with something that's set back further, you could, and you have to be further away to see it, you could sometimes argue that, from the angle you're looking at it, it could appear like an addition behind this building, not necessarily on top of the building. That's why it's set back further is a bit, you know, more successful.
Sure.
Unfortunately, in some cases, the context is not helpful. So it is a function of that context that the building exists in, and but we still have the same standard and guideline to deal with.
Okay.
And you know, the doghouse that was a policy adopted years ago by committee, understanding that there has to be access for various reasons. So that minimized or very minimal intrusion that is lowered, sloped roof line, you know, and that was sort of like understood as a visible thing that could be accepted for just for its function, but adding living space to it if it's not screened, or, you know, then that's where the challenge is.
Were you able to pull it up?
Yeah.
This is the one, where the addition would be located at that far southeast corner, then have that corridor kind of, just offset of the existing stair enclosure.
This one would have to extend up a little bit more.
Yeah, it would extend up a little more,
It avoids the skylights.
it avoids the skylights. Well, would still have to figure out a way, I don't know. If you have another connection here that would impact the existing skylight. So it's all be more of like raising this a little bit to be towards like
Right.
midpoint of the stair enclosure.
Yeah. I mean, like Deanna was touching on, I mean, it's, just the general, you know, logic and thinking behind, you know, minimizing the sidelines. You know, the point that you were making, you know, is one that we hear, you know, quite often. You know, that adjustment that, you know, we're looking to try to achieve here of, you know, the shift and movement, you know, kind of access different parts of the roof that are set back is generally the approach that's taken. For some of the central locations, 29'9", that one out. It would just be like an exception to you know, the typical guidance that we have, so I don't know.
And I would also, you know, just remind that it is something that is a precedent because, you know, if you can make a decision based on some circumstance that's not going to be repeated with other projects. That's one thing where you have a very specific reason that is unique and limits to the particular project versus if it's going to be something that would apply to any number of other properties, then you are creating a precedent.
So not knowing, you know, the different impacts of, you know, the 4E versus 4F, you know, I don't know structurally, you know, if there's a notable difference, you know, if there's no bearing or load capacity there, I don't know that the one that improves on the skylights versus one that avoids it, you know, if that's a significant difference in the overall, but it seemed like, I don't know, my thought was that could be begin to start to hit a middle. And just a point of clarification, the height of this addition that's being proposed is at the same elevation as the stair.
Yeah, I think it's about 10 feet tall, so.
It's actually reducing the height of the stair doghouse by, I think, 6 inches.
So a 9'6" overall.
And the other thing, commissioners, I can just point out that, you know, in other cases, we've looked at additions on where you could see it from the side of the building, but the critical point that you made in those decisions was that you wouldn't see it relative to the front facade, the front parapet. So if, in this case, if you mainly see it against the side, but not above the front parapet line or very minimally above the front parapet line, that would be consistent with other decisions.
I mean, the main issue is obviously the public way on Orleans, which allows for this very long vantage point at the building. I think, and I could prepare this, a photorealistic rendering to take it back to that 29'9". And you can see, I think, from any of the vantage points on Menominee that it would really be very minimally visible. But I don't think that unfortunately, any solution makes it completely not non-visible from Orleans. At the same time, the back of the adjacent building is just this sort of dilapidating, spalling brick. And one of the concerns I have of is the serviceability of not only the addition facade, but then the neighboring building facade. So I understand, like, this is where we are in a bit of a quagmire, for lack of a better term. At the same time, you're probably wondering, well, why don't you just put a tech up there? And being up there many times, when it is sunny out, it is, a roof deck up there is more like akin to a frying pan. And without any type of trellis structure, which would again then be visible, it really doesn't make any sense.
Okay, that was. What was that vote comment?
Postpone the inevitable. All right, so again, for the record, Gord Miller, Richard A. Streethouse, Executive Director of Preservation Chicago. We're in support of the idea and concept of a rooftop addition. I, for a small amount of time, lived around the corner on Orleans Street, so I remember this renovation occurring when it sort of became, when it went from being a garage and a former horse stable to a house. It's a lovely, lovely house. I think this is a difficult issue. I talked to one of our board members, Diane Gonzalez, who's been part of the Old Town Triangle Association since its early days. And she mentioned, in days gone by, they would have most likely challenged these things, but they realized, and I don't want to speak for the Old Town Triangle Association or for Diane Gonzalez, but what she shared with me is that she understands that these things are sometimes necessary to make these sort of small city lots or unusual sites a little more livable. So we're in support of the idea of this addition for Mr. Yan and his family, and how big and how tall and where it's placed. I think we really want to defer to you. Haha. And we realize the precedent that this may set for other buildings in Old Town, and that's a concern too. So maybe things could be worked out, if you will, beyond this meeting, because this is a very challenging idea. But in general, we're in support of this idea to make these buildings in this district more livable. But of course, we don't want to set a dangerous precedent, and we don't want to impact the neighbors and future developments in a negative way. So however we want to go about that. In the past, I know that you've passed this with the idea that they work with staff and one of you to encourage a solution. And maybe that's a good idea to go forward, because I think there's a lot of exploration that still needs to occur. Thank you.
Thank you. Just have a couple thoughts, share a couple thoughts. Normally 29 feet would be a big setback for an addition, right, and not visible, I would think, normal. In a more typical thing like this is still pretty visible. I think that obviously the 49F and the 49E was it not taking less effort to try to, like, the best that we can do to get it as minimal as possible. So that for me feels more provable in terms of like a precedent, because we're pushing it, all the way to the back. So you can't do any more than that. So that's kind of where just thoughts that I have on where we're at.
Yeah, I think, context is always going to be a significant thing. And I think if we get to a point where we treat, what that visibility is from based on how it's obscured by the front parapet, you know, what that view from opposite the street is only, then you know, we're diminishing, you know, what we've reviewed on so many others, where the reality is that we experience these buildings in 300, at least 360 flat acres, I don't know about so many people being up above. You know, the reality is that, you know, there's a avenue here where the space on the roof can be achieved. And I think, you know, the balance is, you know, in the 4E and 4F. Like we were talking to, you know, not knowing the full extent of what the structural realities are, I think I would be open to either of those being, you know, considered. One obviously avoids the skylights that we know are there, but if, you know, that ends up not having a significant impact, I think, you know, we could be, you know, investigating as well. But I think, you know, with all of the roof additions that we viewed previously, you know, to hold this to a different standard, you know, would kind of line the face of the process and set a precedent that we would, you know, not be able to undo. So, yeah, that's my thought on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a place to compromise. I mean, I think so much of the practice of this is prioritizing the view from the street, from somebody walking or driving on the street. And that's like, are you creating more visual noise? Are you blocking the view of something else? Are you compromising the architectural integrity of the property? But like, so much of it is based on like this view of all these points in the street. You're gonna get a version where you're gonna see it one way or another. To kind of strike a balance, it makes sense to say, to be able to keep doing the work and say that we held to a certain standard, to be able to say the further back it's set is gonna be better. So I'd say between those two that you mentioned, I'd have to take a look at those two versions, see exactly how different they are from each other. So if I had to pick one of the other. The pathway, okay. Between those two, Mr. Yan, do you have any particular sway?
I would be more in favor of obviously the one that doesn't require removing the skylights.
Okay.
I think there's obviously coordination that would need to happen with the neighbor to make sure that any checkpointing was addressed obviously before, and that they opportunity needs to do that.
Sure.
Yeah, it's obviously a very unique neighborhood, very unique setback structures, variation of structures that you have. So
it's going to be a historic district that has many different periods of significance in it, and it's you're doing work that one day will be looked at another period of time. It might be another layer of the history of the neighborhood. If it's significant, good work, it will be considered that way when the time comes for it. I think it's compelling. I think avoiding the skylight makes sense. It's just to keep a precedent of what we're trying to do. Do we just come to something that sounds like a consensus?
I think that would be
4E, I heard.
Sounds like 4E.
Oh my gosh. That's the other word, the corridor is pulled off.
Gets you a little more visibility. I guess, you know.
Oh, 4F, okay.
Visibility allows, you know, some flexibility to keep the skylights that are there and not have to mess with them.
Okay, great, 4F?
4F.
Okay.
So move to make that recommendation. Following the line of perimeter passing that's informed by 4F.
Okay, there's a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Seconded by Commissioner Rubin, and I agree. So yes to that. So that was that motion carried unanimously.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a hard one.
Thanks for the consideration and a lot of consideration here.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
Good luck. Yes.
Yeah, I think before the right, so there's, specification that needs to happen. I didn't want to invest too much before I got some direction, so. Thank you.
Thanks for your flexibility too.
All
right. Okay, that brings us to the end of our agenda. No further business. I'd like to request a motion to adjourn. Moved and seconded moved by Ruben, seconded by Commissioner Barron. And yes, thank you all. For being good. Yeah.
All right, how do you doing? All right. Oh, yeah, it goes,